Hello to each and every one of you, BAWLER, and this is important news for you. Subscribe and write in the comments what you think about it. Russia's military is facing a catastrophic breakdown. A shocking 20,538 Russian soldiers have gone AWOL, absent without leave, highlighting just how little loyalty many of Putin's troops have left for his war. The scale of this collapse is something we've never seen before, and Putin is reportedly furious. The UK's Ministry of Defence confirmed this in a June 30th intelligence update, citing figures from the independent Russian outlet Mediazona. According to them, over 20,000 Russian servicemen have stood trial for abandoning their posts, defying orders or deserting since the invasion of Ukraine began in February 2022. The overwhelming majority of these cases, about 88%, are classified as AWOL. The MOD reported that 18,159 cases involve soldiers simply leaving without authorization, and most of them are convicted. Under Article 337 of Russia's Criminal Code, going AWOL can now land you a decade in prison. So far, 17,721 soldiers have been prosecuted, over 86% of those charged. Publicly, the Kremlin claims to value military service, offering hefty pay as proof. BBC monitoring revealed that bonuses for contract soldiers have surged by 450% since the war began, and now these soldiers can earn up to 6 times more than the average Russian salary. But this isn't appreciation, it's desperation. Putin has to pay them that much because few are willing to fight otherwise. If the Russian leadership truly respected its soldiers, the country wouldn't be facing over 1 million casualties in this war. What's really happening is systemic brutality. Lured by the promise of riches, many young men are thrown into chaotic human wave attacks. Once you're in, you're expected to sacrifice yourself for Putin's ambitions. Over 20,000 soldiers have refused, and the Kremlin is making an example of them. These laws on desertion are no empty threat. Putin is enforcing them harshly. Take the case of Yevgeny Sandulsky. In November 2024, the outlet Meduza reported he received a 10-year prison sentence, Russia's harshest penalty yet, for desertion. Initially, he was charged with 4 counts of unauthorized absence over an 18-month period, but prosecutors escalated the charge to full desertion, which can carry a 15-year sentence. He didn't get the full term, but the message is clear: leave the army and you pay dearly. Despite these consequences, many soldiers would rather face prison than return to the front. According to World Crunch, 49,000 soldiers have deserted since the war began. Combine that with the AWOL figures and nearly 70,000 troops have simply walked away from Putin's war. One such soldier, referred to by the pseudonym Vladimir, received a guilty verdict for desertion. His lawyer leaned in and said, "Better this than lying under a bush in Ukraine." His wife, Elena, agreed, saying she'd rather know her husband is alive in prison than dead on the battlefield. Their 1-year-old son will grow up knowing his father, she said. Please support my channel with a small donation. It's not much for you, but for me it's an incentive to keep going and bring you important news. I've included a PayPal link to support my channel in the description for this video. Thank you. Vladimir had already served 2 years and was wounded in the leg. While on medical leave, he made his choice. He wouldn't return. But before he had fully healed, he was seized in the street, packed onto a train and sent toward the front lines. In St. Petersburg, he escaped and went into hiding. For him, prison was preferable to war. His story is just one among thousands. Many go AWOL to escape the army's internal cruelty. Brutality isn't new in the Russian military. In fact, attempts to reform it have repeatedly failed. One example is Artyom Pokotin, a young soldier who sent a chilling message to his mother saying he was being tormented and mentally broken. His breaking point came when fellow soldiers carved an obscene word into his forehead with a razor. He later took his own life during a training session. Such horror isn't isolated. The Moscow Times and other sources have documented soldiers being beaten, humiliated, and threatened with rape. The Russian army's disciplinary culture, known as Dedovshchina, is a holdover from the Soviet era, a brutal initiation process designed to desensitize recruits to violence. Even after basic training, the abuse continues. In May, the Express reported that in the Donbas, Russian soldiers were forced into gladiator-style death matches with the promise of contract termination for the victor. One soldier reportedly strangled another to death. Both were former comrades. This isn't a military, it's an institution of organized cruelty. Putin talks reform, but nothing has changed. The UK's MOD states plainly, for many soldiers, the fear of their own comrades is enough to make them go AWOL. But brutality is only one piece of the puzzle. Medical neglect is another key factor. Vladimir's injury story is echoed across Russia. In November, the MOD cited a riot in Novosibirsk, where members of Russia's 41st Combined Arms Army smashed windows and damaged barracks after being ordered back to combat before recovering from their wounds. The Center for European Policy Analysis, CPA, recently reported that Russia had surpassed 1 million casualties in this war, partly due to poor medical treatment. Soldiers aren't even taught basic first aid, meaning many die from injuries that might otherwise be survivable. One Russian doctor told the Transformer Telegram channel that wounded troops lack beds, medicines, doctors, and even clean sheets. Imagine the despair. You're told the state values you, yet when you're injured, you're neglected or sent back to fight while still bleeding. It's no wonder over 20,000 troops have gone AWOL. Lack of training is another massive issue. The MOD says new recruits are sometimes rushed to the front lines within 2 weeks with as little as 5 days of training. They're woefully unprepared, and that's intentional. Putin needs bodies, not soldiers. In September 2024, Business Insider quoted George Barros from the Institute for the Study of War, who said each new batch of Russian troops is less trained than the last. He fears the bar for entry is so low, Russia may soon be sending unfit civilians into combat. This shortage of qualified troops is a direct contributor to Russia's mounting losses. The Washington Post notes that Russia's current summer offensive is struggling due to poor training, logistical collapse, equipment shortages, and systemic corruption. Analyst Ian Matveyev put it bluntly, mass assaults are all Russia can do now. The army lacks the ability to coordinate complex operations, so it trades lives for land. Picture yourself as one of those soldiers. You join, get hazed, and rushed into battle with barely enough training to operate a rifle. If you're wounded, you're ignored, or worse, sent back before you've healed. Eventually, you realize the only way out is a grave or desertion. That's why tens of thousands are walking away. And yet, Putin offers a twisted path to redemption. AWOL soldiers can avoid prison by joining Storm Z units, formations made up of convicts. Reuters reported on one such unit in October 2023, where even medical treatment was denied. One soldier said, "Storm fighters, they're just meat." Even behind bars, Putin's military machine finds ways to coerce men back into combat. Those who accept are often treated even worse than before. This mass exodus reveals two things: morale in the Russian army is collapsing, and Putin's summer offensive is doomed. The national interest stated in December 2024 that Russian troops don't believe in their cause. Unlike Ukrainians, who are defending their homes, Russian soldiers are fighting for something abstract. And when the attrition becomes unbearable, morale crumbles. That's why you see mutinies in medical facilities and thousands going AWOL. Putin's offensive is faltering. On June 29th, The Telegraph reported that Russia is pushing across several fronts, Sumy, Kharkiv, Donetsk, but hasn't made any major breakthroughs. Despite breaking its own record for ground assaults in June, the gains are meaningless, just scraps of land with no strategic value. Why is the offensive failing? Because of everything we've mentioned: inadequate training, medical neglect, internal abuse, and soldiers who've lost all faith in the mission. Putin claims to lead a superpower military. In reality, his army is cracking, and it will only continue to crumble as more soldiers refuse to fight for a war they never believed in. And it's not just desertion that's damaging Russia. Ukraine's secret service, the SBU, is striking deep inside Russian territory. Now, nothing in Russia is safe. Find out what the SBU just pulled off and subscribe to BAWLER for more hard-hitting video commentaries exposing the failures of Putin's war machine. Thank you for watching.